Why does one hear their name called when no one seems to be present? This odd, universally shared experience persists across cultures and ages, forming the basis for urban legends, spiritual teachings, neuroscience research, and a variety of personal stories. The phenomenon is often described as a clear, distinct voice, sometimes familiar, even loving, that seems to break through daily noise or silence to call a person's name, yet no physical source can be found. For many, such moments feel personal or even profound, blending everyday reality with the unsettling prospect of the unknown. Psychology offers an explanation rooted in the brain's recognition systems. Research shows hearing one's own name activates unique neural circuits, including regions responsible for personal significance and attention. The brain is deeply tuned to a name, forming the first bridge between conscious perception and self-identity. Auditory pareidolia, a phenomenon where the mind reconstructs familiar patterns from random noise, also plays a role. Rustling leaves, shifting air. A distant murmur can be recast as one's name, especially when the mind is primed for connection or alertness. Yet the story does not merely reside in neuroscience. Spiritual traditions offer more nuanced readings. In some strands of Islamic teaching, hearing one's name in solitude is interpreted as a divine nudge or spiritual awakening, a reminder from the unseen world that one is watched over and loved, especially during periods of loneliness or despair. The Quran reminds believers, "Indeed, I am near. I answer the call of the caller when he calls upon me." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:186. In such moments, a person may pause, reflecting in silence, uncertain whether they are being called to prayer, repentance, or merely comfort. Paranormal and supernatural beliefs add another layer. Some claim that hearing one's name is a sign from the deceased, a message from loved ones who have passed on, offering comfort or warning from beyond the veil. Others warn of more sinister origins, mysterious voices that mimic the tone of trusted friends or relatives, yet responding to them is considered risky. These tales hint at parallel realities and hidden forces at play, symbolizing the unresolved tension between curiosity and caution. The everyday context of hearing voices while drifting to sleep or waking up is also well documented. Such occurrences fall under hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations, transient waking dreams that bridge the realms of sleep and consciousness. These hallucinatory voices are harmless byproducts of the mind's transition, far removed from spiritual or supernatural import, yet they reinforce the mystery and universality of the experience. From the standpoint of cognitive neuroscience, research on self-recognition confirms that one's name is a potent auditory trigger, instantly prioritized by the brain even in noisy environments. This heightened sensitivity explains why the phenomenon feels so real. The mind instinctively opens its attentional filters, making the phantom call seem more vivid than other imagined sounds. Blending these perspectives, the continuous narrative moves across cultural, scientific, and personal terrain. Sleepless nights, whispered calls, and existential pondering mirror real human processes. The phenomenon has been seen as both unsettling and oddly reassuring, offering a chance for reflection. One of the most fascinating aspects of this mystery lies in just how convincing it feels. You can hear your name in a crowded room, across a noisy street, or in the middle of silence, and the reaction is immediate. You turn, your heart skips, and for a second, it feels undeniable. That's because the human brain has evolved to prioritize personal relevance. Of all the words in any language, your name is one of the first you recognize as a child. It becomes a kind of auditory beacon, something your mind flags instantly, no matter the context. Even in sleep studies, scientists found that when someone's name is played softly, the sleeper's brain reacts differently than to any other word. This suggests that on a subconscious level, Our minds are always listening for it. This is also why your name can emerge from noise. Psychologists call it the cocktail party effect. In a room filled with chatter, clinking glasses, and music, your brain somehow singles out your name. That same mechanism is what sometimes causes random sounds, wind through leaves, a distant conversation, or even the hum of machinery, to be misinterpreted as your name. But the phenomenon isn't just neurological, it's deeply emotional. Studies in psychology show that people who are experiencing grief, loneliness, or social isolation are more likely to hear voices calling their names. The mind, wired for connection, sometimes generates what it craves most. Think of someone who has recently lost a loved one. In the silence of a familiar home, the memory of their voice lingers. The brain, primed to recall and comfort, can turn background noise into something deeply personal, a fleeting whisper of their name. For the grieving, these moments can be bittersweet, a reminder of absence, yet also of presence. Loneliness itself acts as a magnifier. Humans are social creatures, and being deprived of connection heightens sensitivity to social cues, even imagined ones. When the silence stretches too long, the mind sometimes answers back with a phantom voice. Across cultures, hearing one's name when no one is present carries spiritual weight. In Christian traditions, some believe it is God calling in moments of need or vulnerability. Biblical stories often begin with God calling someone by name: Moses, Samuel, Mary. Hearing your name in solitude can be seen as echoing this sacred pattern. In Hindu philosophy, the self and name are intimately connected. Mantras often involve repeating divine names, reinforcing the spiritual power contained in spoken identity. Hearing your own name, then, could be interpreted as a call to mindfulness or self-realization. In indigenous folklore, voices calling your name are sometimes believed to be spirit guides or ancestors, either warning you of danger or drawing your attention to the unseen. Yet some tales caution against answering such calls, as they may be deceptive spirits luring wanderers into harm. In African traditions, names are often tied to destiny. A call in the night could be interpreted as an ancestor reminding you of your path or obligations. What unites these traditions is the idea that a name is never just a word. It is identity, essence, and sometimes even a soul. That is why hearing it, even without a source, feels so charged with meaning. The mystery has also fueled countless folk tales and urban legends. In rural communities, people tell stories of travelers hearing their names whispered from the forest, only to vanish when they followed the sound. In modern times, online forums brim with accounts of people who heard their names while alone in apartments, dorm rooms, or late-night streets. Some stories describe it as comforting, others as chilling, but nearly all share the same striking clarity. The voice sounds undeniably real. Japanese folklore warns of the yurei, restless spirits that sometimes call out names at night to draw people toward them. In Celtic tales, fairies were said to use human names to gain power or lure mortals into their realm. Even today, many cultures still advise, if you hear your name in the dark and no one is there, don't answer. Another common setting for phantom voices is the border between sleep and waking. These moments, known as hypnagogic, falling asleep, and hypnopompic, waking up hallucinations, are among the most vivid experiences the mind can produce. Many people report hearing their names during this state, sometimes accompanied by a knock, a shout, or even a gentle whisper. The brain, drifting in and out of dream logic, pulls fragments of memory and sound into startlingly clear perceptions. Though harmless, they can be so vivid that they linger long after waking, leaving people shaken or curious. Modern life also primes us for these experiences. Stress, fatigue, and sensory overload all push the brain toward error. In high-pressure environments, such as students preparing for exams, professionals in demanding jobs, or soldiers in combat zones. Phantom voices are common. The brain, stretched thin, sometimes misfires in its search for important signals. Even lack of sleep itself can be a culprit. Deprivation blurs the line between dream and wakefulness, making people far more likely to hear things that aren't there. In this way, phantom name-calling becomes a kind of early warning system, a sign that the body and mind need rest. Perhaps the deepest reason these moments feel so powerful is that a name is tied to identity in a way few other words are. Your name is not just a label. It is your history, your relationships, your memories. It is how others call you into the world and how you recognize yourself in it. Hearing it, even from an unknown source, creates an immediate jolt of recognition. It bypasses logic and lands directly in the core of self-awareness. For a split second, the world seems to pause because your very being has been summoned. This explains why cultures place such weight on names. From naming ceremonies at birth to prayers recited in someone's name, the sound of it carries meaning that stretches beyond the ordinary. When you hear it without a speaker, it feels less like an error and more like an encounter. A woman describes sitting in her new apartment the first night after moving out of her family home. As she unpacked boxes in silence, she suddenly heard her late mother's voice call her name, clear as day. Though startled, she felt comforted, as if reminded she wasn't truly alone. A young man, during a period of estrangement from a close friend, reported hearing that friend's voice call him one evening. The next day, he reached out to reconnect and learned his friend had been going through a crisis at the exact time. A nurse working long shifts at a hospital swore she heard her name whispered while she sat alone at the nurse's station. There was no one nearby. For her, it was a moment of reflection, a reminder to slow down, breathe, and take care of herself. These stories reveal the spectrum of interpretations: grief, intuition, coincidence, or simply the mind's tricks. Yet they all share the same emotional resonance. The call of one's name feels like a moment of significance. Science offers explanations: neural misfiring, pareidolia, stress, sleep transitions. Spirituality offers others: divine presence, ancestral voices, spirit guides. Folklore warns of danger, while philosophy invites us to see it as a moment of self-recognition. Perhaps the truth is not a single answer, but a tapestry of them all. Sometimes the cause is biological, sometimes it's emotional, and sometimes, maybe, it really does feel like something more. What matters most is not always the origin of the voice, but the reflection it inspires. To hear your name in silence is to be reminded that you exist, that you are connected, and that somewhere in the vast noise of life you are recognized. Another striking aspect of this phenomenon is how it connects to memory and imagination working together. Neuroscientists note that the brain does not neatly separate real perception from reconstructed perception. When you recall the sound of a loved one's voice, where your auditory cortex activates in much the same way it does when you actually hear them speak. This overlap means that, under the right conditions, a memory can become so vivid it feels external. When a person hears their name in the voice of someone dear, it may be the mind reactivating emotional memory so strongly that it slips into lived reality. There is also the question of intuition. Across cultures, stories exist of people who heard their names called in moments of danger, just in time to avoid an accident, a misstep, or a harmful encounter. Skeptics would argue this is coincidence, the brain flagging attention because it was already on edge. Yet many who have lived through such experiences feel it was something more: a guardian presence, an inner compass, or even fate stepping in to guide them. These narratives highlight the deep human desire to see purpose in unexpected events. Interestingly, Some modern therapists use this phenomenon as an entry point into discussions about mental health and inner dialogue. A client who hears their name may not be experiencing anything pathological, but it opens the door to talk about stress, loneliness, and the narratives we tell ourselves. Rather than seeing it as a frightening hallucination, it can be reframed as a message from the subconscious, an inner voice seeking acknowledgement. This therapeutic angle transforms the mystery into an opportunity for growth and reflection. So have you ever heard your name when no one was there? Did it leave you unsettled, comforted, or simply curious? We'd love to hear your stories. Share them in the comments below. Your experiences might resonate with others who felt the same mystery. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of life's small but profound puzzles, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future explorations of the strange and F.